covers to my shadow. You are follow in my pattern.
Hello and welcome to the Ladies' Room. Today I have with me my good friend Esen Edip, who started her own title agency. How old were you when you started that title agency?
I was 35 when I started.
35. Very brave to just launch into your own company. So it's a very interesting story because you're very successful, and we've done a lot of business together. And I'll tell you, it's a wonderful thing to have your own title agency because you guys do a lot of stuff for people that it's just a great service. And when people buy a house, and usually the lawyer refers the title agency, they have connections.
It usually had been on the purchase side with attorneys that refer out the title company or select the title company. But one of the reasons when I founded this company was that I had been working at my sister's law firm, and from there, title reports would just come in. They would come in piecemeal.
Yeah,
I felt
they come in a mess, and there's all kinds of little nitpicking things that are on them.
So one of the things that I was doing that was different was the frustrations I had was streamlining those in a process for the title company. Whenever we're sending out another piece of information, we're sending out as a complete report versus a piecemeal that somebody else has to figure out where they go in the order of all the papers that are in there. Then it was adding in additional services because just because a title report is done and clean, which is a complete review of public records, doesn't mean the lender's going to lend, the purchaser's going to close on the deal. So what we started doing that was different was the services that go with cleaning up that title report. And that's really where it caught on with mortgage professionals, with attorneys. It was our ability to understand that we don't stop once the report is out, that we really need to focus in and bring the service element back to title insurance.
Yeah. So the company is called Titles of New York. You've been around for, 10 years or so now, and background at a law firm. It's really interesting because you guys know, whenever I have a question, I can call anyone at your office. They're very knowledgeable, very helpful. You have a lovely staff. How many people do you have working in the office?
Have 14 people now.
14 people.
And I don't have any managers. I have people with managers as titles, but I don't have an operations manager. Everyone that I'm fortunate enough in my company that everyone that is employed there is self-motivated to do the best job for the customer and the client. At the end, it's a really good group of people. They're empowered to make decisions. They do have experience, whether it's 20 years for the attorneys, 10 years for the production managers, and it's a nice culture that has evolved and developed. Somehow I got lucky with it, whether it's I don't know if it's my hiring practice or my intolerance for incompetence, but at the end of the day, I continually get compliments on my team.
Yeah, I think you're very easy to work with, and you're very communicative, and really, I always call you. I love Elizabeth and all the other girls, but I always call you.
Thank you.
Because I just want to say hello, too. But
that was one of the foundations of the company was the 3 C's, where it's communication, cooperation, and coordination amongst everyone. It has to be critically put together, where those are the areas that most businesses fail. If the team members are not communicating, if they're not cooperating or coordinating amongst themselves, then clients get frustrated because they have to send something over 2-3 times. So we try and eliminate that by really focusing on our 3 C's.
Another thing I find really helpful, because I'm a mortgage professional, and when I start talking to a person about their mortgage, they want to know what their closing costs are. And every other title company would never give you any idea of what their charges were or what the fees were. And of course, as I was a real estate agent too, so we know about the Peconic Land Trust, we know about the mansion tax, we know about basically the taxes. But you guys, we just send you the parameters of the deal, and man, we get a list of all the charges immediately. And it's a wonderful thing because it's a no-brainer.
It's funny because some of our competitors don't send full closing costs. So when a consumer or the borrower themselves are looking at our title report versus a competitor's, they're going to people think that we're so much more expensive than our competitors. And I even had a friend that was working at another company who sent me a request for a quote. They said, you're $1,000 higher than your competitors. I said, $1,000, that's impossible. You don't have those type of margins. We could be maybe $100 higher. But at the end of the day, the competitor didn't disclose all of the costs that are involved.
They don't disclose it all. And actually, yours always comes in less expensive.
It does.
It does.
Because we overestimate all the time in case of multiple different scenarios that could possibly happen. And that way, the consumer, at the end of the day...
No surprises.
Exactly.
No
That's our
surprise.
philosophy.
They don't get to the closing table and go, what? I thought it was going to be such and such, and it's so much more. And it doesn't happen with you. They're always so surprised that it's less. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, we're redoing our website right now, and the testimonials that Elizabeth and Angela and some employees are getting are actually from the borrowers, of saying how easy it was to work with our company. It is the cost-wise, we give full disclosure on it, and it's very nice to hear from the end consumer, who's usually invisible to title insurance, coming back to us and saying what a pleasure it was to work with your company.
Well, if you are refinancing your home, it's your choice what title company to use. So, Titles of New York.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So what made you decide to start your own business, and what gave you the gumption to do it? How do you decide to do something like that?
I love business. So business was always something as an entrepreneur that I'm passionate about. And prior to Titles of New York, my sister had opened up a real estate law firm that I was the business manager there and the operations manager, and developing and defining those parameters to work in under those. Prior to that, I was in the internet days back in 98, 96. I was looking at startups there and trying to develop this company that would have been called Jeeves, which was online grocery market.
That's funny, because Ask Jeeves.
Ask Jeeves is one of them that came up later on. Jeeves would have been an online grocery shopping for New York City specialty markets. And I put together...
You're a little bit ahead of the curve right then, right?
Now
they have them all over.
I would say I've always been passionate about business, and I constantly come up with different ideas. It's just none of them really flush out. Title insurance flushed out because I had a client base that was able to tell me what their frustrations are in working with title insurance agencies, and I was able to develop a competitive niche for this company to differentiate ourselves from others, where most of the time you don't really get that.
So you realized there was a demand for the service, and you...
It is. One of the things that we do is assignment of mortgages, and I don't know whether it was market changes or what had happened in the industry, but sometimes people were not giving assignment of mortgages and offering that with the tax savings, mortgage tax savings. And we really built it into the philosophy of our company, is to do a cost comparison of the cost of processing an assignment versus the mortgage tax savings to see whether or not it's needed. And it's a frontline item that we do. That
is one of my favorite things about your company, because in the old days, the mortgage broker had to do all the paperwork, excuse me, to have the mortgage assigned. And what that means, it's called a CEMA, C-E-M-A, Consolidation Extension Modification Agreement. And it's pretty complicated because if you're refinancing and you have a mortgage, and really I think the cutoff is around $400,000 is where it begins not making financial sense to get the CEMA.
Correct.
But anything like if you have a $700,000 or $800,000 mortgage, New York State wants their hand in the pie every time for the mortgage tax. So if you've already paid mortgage tax on that $800,000, and now you're going to get a new mortgage, whether it's a little less or you're taking cash out, they want the tax all over again on the original $800,000. So what has to happen is they have to pull your old mortgage from the bank that you originally financed at. That bank has to do legal work to tie it to the new mortgage. The new bank has to do legal work to tie it to the new mortgage. And then there's a connecting thing. And you guys do it all.
We do
We
do it
used
all.
to have to do it, and it was horrible.
So we charge $200 for that service.
That's amazing because it's a
and
pain.
$1,000 savings,
Yeah.
thousands of dollars in savings. And we call every few days. We review the mortgage chain. We chase all the missing paperwork. And
So good
legal-
at doing it.
It really has
It used
turned
to
out
take
to be.
3 months at least, and you guys always get it done in like less than 6 weeks, or around 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's amazing because the old bank really doesn't want to lose your mortgage, and they really don't want to have to go into the archives and pull the old mortgage. They don't want to do it at all. They started charging more and more fees to do it.
They have,
A
the
lot of
fees
banks
have
didn't do it
increased.
at all to begin with.
There is some banks that still don't do it, but most of the banks are cooperating, and sometimes
Because
you'll
it's
have
not fair. If you've already
process-
paid the tax, why should you pay the tax again?
Well, the government isn't always fair when
Yeah,
they're
that's
talking about
true.
taxes.
It's New York State.
And the government is looking for various ways to enforce the tax codes to collect the revenue that they
Yeah.
need to operate the
Yeah, they
state.
need revenue.
But this is a tax loophole that the consumer can take advantage of. And we actively review the mortgage chain in the title report to make sure that the consumer is taking care of the tax loophole for the savings if need be. And it's a regular part, it's a religious aspect of what we do and practice in the business for it. And because where a mortgage professional would do probably 5 or 6 a month, we do 150 a month.
Wow.
So because we're calling there isn't that many banks, so it's usually the suspects of 7 or 8 banks. We're calling them regularly, so we know them. We know the practice changes.
Yeah.
We know where we're going to get stuck.
And they know you're not going to go away,
and
so they do
know.
deal with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I
They're
call,
persistent.
they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen that file. It's at the bottom of the pile." You know.
Right. Let me
It's like-
transfer you to a number in
Yeah,
India.
yeah, really. And you have to get through all the menus, and you're
Then
on
you get
hold
to-
for like, City was the worst. You'd be on hold for like 20 minutes or half an hour trying to get through to someone, and they really don't want to do it.
Yes, for a transfer out of India, you get to the Philippines.
Right. So you come from modest means. How did you know that you could financially do this company, and how did you fund the company and get it going?
It was very scary in the beginning. I managed to save about $40,000. But I was also hiring an attorney at that same time period who would cost me more than what I had in savings. And failure is not an option. It was never an option. I had to succeed, and I had to listen to what my customers wanted to be able to make the business work. So I did have the $40,000, but by the time you're done in doing the licensing, the software, the insurances, the payroll, everything, it can go quickly. And I found cheaper ways to do the beginning startup where you don't need a server in the beginning. You can have 2 computers that are connected by a box and 2 wires to it. Internet doesn't have to be so fast and robust, although it needs to be decent speed for the large documents that we have to download for that. There's ways to cut corners and find free products online to be able to use. And then another big expense in title insurance is supplier costs. So whether it's the paper, it's the searchers, the examiners, negotiating all of those is really important in the beginning to know how much your suppliers are going to charge and see if you could get discounts or breaks on that. Everyone does have a right to earn a living, but reducing that is really critical too. Yeah. Then the business started coming in, but it still wasn't enough. So at that point, it was just trying to make it work with whether it was rent and some,
I can't
support.
imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, you always hear that if you're going to start a new business, you have to have enough money to fund that business for a whole year without making a dollar. So you started really in the minus column.
I did, and I don't know if I really believe in that 1 year or 2 years nest eggs
I think retail and restaurants,
for those it's different because those need inventory, where you need to be able to buy and stock inventory to sell. Mine was a service-based business. So for mine, you need the photocopier, the printer, there's small things that you need. But you don't need the latest printer. You don't need the biggest photocopying machine. There's some things that you could do to catch a break on for mine. But then again, in mine, the profit margins are larger than, say, apples or oranges, whatever it may be at the grocery store, for a plate, at a restaurant, entree or drinks for that. So at least I was lucky with having few good clients that were following me, that were making sure that I was getting the business to be able to turn it. And when you're down to having no money, you'll do everything
You get
possible
really inventive.
And I think
When the going gets tough, the tough get going.
Yeah, and I think a lot of creative ideas came out of that time period too, which was the assignments, the subordinations, calling the building department to make to find out about how to close out open permits. All I knew was the only way to make money was to close the deal. So I was rolling up my sleeves and doing whatever it took to close the deals at that time period to keep us afloat. And now we're in a growth spurt. We've grown 20% annually.
Yay.
Yeah, for every year so far. And last year we're up 25% over the prior year, but still we're reinvesting in capital reinvestment into the company, which means that although there's profits there.
Well, you have 25 people working, so you must have a pretty big office space. Or did you say 14?
14 people. By the time you're done with the title closers, the accounting, and all of that, it would add up to 25. But I really, as far as the philosophy in the company, I only keep essential personnel in the office. I don't think we need a typist in our office. That can be outsourced. I don't think we need examiners or title closers in the office. That can all be outsourced. Yes. What I need in the office is going to be the personnel who can answer the questions when somebody calls in and a client calls. For having an office of 14 people, I don't have a receptionist. Yeah. And the reason I don't have a receptionist is because I don't want to put another person as a back.
So what is your philosophy about managing your office? You said you don't have a manager. You're obviously the manager.
I don't have to be there. I'm not there today. I don't have to be in my office. I very infrequently get calls from clients, and when I do get a call from a client,
Am I the only pain in the butt?
No, not at all. No, I mean, I have people call, but they call to catch up. Or if somebody does call, it's going to be about an anomaly. So it's not going to be a standard straight cut deal. It's going to be something that we have to look at a little bit differently or closer to it. As far as managing the personnel, I have in my company mandatory professional development, where everyone has to take, as part of course of employment, 3 courses per year that are outside the company, that are real estate related, title insurance related, mortgage related, whatever it may be, just something related to either us or our customers, and bring that knowledge back in-house. Continuing education. Yes.
It's a whole new industry.
We're doing it on our side, and it's not mandated.
They started it in real estate, where we had to go for 22 hours a year, I guess. Now to get your mortgage license, which you never needed before, you have to do it 22 hours a year, and the licensing. And boy, in the beginning when they started it, you had to go to one of these test centers. We had to do the national SAFE thing. It was a 3-day course in the city. And then we had to go to like this space age. Have you ever been to one of these testing things?
For Florida licensing and Pennsylvania
Isn't it weird?
It
you
is.
Go in,
it's
like Sleeper or something. You go into this white building, and they take everything from you. You have to put everything in a locker, and they scan your hand, and they take your picture, and then you go through a door, and they scan your hand. Like you could, like you're a magician, and you can suddenly change when you go through that door and be a different person. But they scan your hand again, and they take your picture again, and you sign again. And then you go into these rooms where it's just cubicles with computers, and I guess people are taking insurance exams, real estate exams, mortgage exams, all kinds of exams.
Well, in New York, and title insurance is not licensed at all. So I instill as part of the business and the business philosophy, I have it instilled.
That's good. That's good to keep them up on their game.
It is, because I find that in businesses, and I don't know whether it was from my MBA days or which book I read it in, but the failure of many companies was that it was bad practices. So they hired managers as operations managers. Those operations managers put procedures together. Those procedures had to be followed, and there were going down the line. Someone leaves, that person teaches now the new hire how to do it. That new hire becomes lose touch, lose
and the
knowledge.
managers get lazy.
Yes.
And then the blame game starts when things start falling through the cracks. And
Well, our business philosophy that everyone has to hold as a core value is that we are not in business to make money. Our actual philosophy is we're in business to make our clients' lives easier. When we make our clients' lives easier, we'll make them more profitable.
Yes,
and then their profits will come back to us.
Yeah, cool.
For it. So it's a very different philosophy, I think, than most businesses. And some companies even hold employment or management practices in a tyranny, where they're the angry managers that you didn't follow procedure, you didn't do this. I don't think that there's any inventiveness in that. No. Where what happens
it's
if
a negative atmosphere.
Yeah.
So you have a completely positive atmosphere.
Positive. I definitely have process changes that happen once a month where we look at it, we learn, we take case studies together, we all look at what happened with the client, what was great on it, what could we have done better. And every month we're sitting together as a team and reviewing our prior month's performance.
What changes do you see happening in your market when you...
There's a lot of national vendors. Dodd-Frank had put more financial responsibilities.
The Dodd-Frank Act is like this 5 million page document. No, it's like, what, 4,000 pages? And it's supposed to make everybody safer getting mortgages, but meanwhile it just complicated everything as far as I'm concerned. But
well, it's interesting because it's supposed to be about financial responsibility for institutions and not taking advantage of the borrowers, and there's always supposed to be a borrower's benefit to financial decisions that the company makes. But Dodd-Frank, what they've done with the financial institutions is held them more accountable over the costs. So the institutions have turned around and said, all right, well, if we're going to be more...
They charge everybody else more now.
With little add-on fees.
The banks, they're criminals.
Stop taking that $18 out of my checking account.
And the only people that don't have to do continuing ed and get licensed are the people that work in the banks. And you go into a bank to get a mortgage, and you talk to a person that has no clue how to do a mortgage. Yeah. Basically, they're just application takers, and they send it into some central place. And a lot of times, they lose the files.
The banks that have that call
they lose
center.
Your file, and then weeks go by, and you're like, what's going on, and they're like, we'll call you back, and they don't call you back. That's why mortgage brokers are necessary, because we really coddle the person and
it's a different level of hand-holding. Yeah. And I think that years ago, one of the mortgage bankers tried that 1-800 call center number.
Oh, really?
And it was a complete failure. It didn't work. It was Trump Mortgage. I believe that was there.
Oh, Trump Mortgage was in and out in like 4 months.
And I believe,
wasn't it Donald Trump's son's idea? They were all in like South Beach and got drunk one night, and he ran into a guy who was a mortgage broker, and the guy said, "Oh, you should have Trump Mortgage." And that's how it started. Lasted for about 4. It was a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't comment on those because I think I know a few people involved in that transaction.
Oh, that's funny.
But at the time, I don't believe 1-800 call centers will work. I don't believe national title companies, national mortgage companies will work, because you really need to know local markets. Yeah. You need to know local consumers' needs, and have a relationship that you can understand the financials of the person you're speaking to and what their needs are.
Communication is so important, to take the mystery out of it and really explain to people what's going on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For that.
It's funny. This is maybe inappropriate, but on Bill Maher, he had, he was showing, online now, they have like dogs saying, "I ate your socks," and I'm sorry, dogs with little signs. Mm-hmm. He had an orangutan with a sign that's saying, "I only slept with Donald Trump's mother on a bet." The orangutan. Yeah. But anyway, reminded me of that. So, so those are the changes you see happening in the market.
I do. I find that the market is going towards national vendors. I just don't. For myself, I'm a niche player. Uh-huh. I work in New York. I also, I mean, I'm a national company because I had to go national. Everyone else went
Are
national.
you licensed in every state?
38 states.
Oh my God! And you have to
30.
take exams for every state.
I
Esen,
did a
I don't
lot
know
of
how you
licensing.
studied for all. I remember a couple of years. Every time I spoke to you, I'm
Oh,
studying
again.
I'm studying for Wisconsin. I'm studying for Idaho. No, but anyway.
So, yeah, Florida's always been in my thorn in my side, but
Well,
it's where New Yorkers like to go. So wherever
yeah.
New Yorkers go, I think we'll focus in that market. But I don't want to be a national company. I can't be everything to everyone. I think that's part of maturity and
Yeah.
learning what you can do, what you're good at. And we're good as a New York player.
Yeah.
And we can compete. We can be the best of the best. In New York, I can't offer that nationally. I can offer paperwork, paper processing, and doing okay, but I can't rush something in Wisconsin or any of the other states. We can do a good job, but not.
Probably don't get that much business from the other states either. It's not worth it.
I don't solicit it.
I'm only
and-
licensed in the tri-state area because even Florida became a big pain in the butt, really, because banks don't want to lend in Florida. You can't give real estate away in Florida right now.
That's what we're focusing on, the East Coast player.
Yeah.
So everywhere from Florida to Maine is really
Good.
our focus point. And as we master, learn, grow, then we will get into the next states. But I'm not going to add on states that I didn't master yet.
Well, this time has flown by.
Wow.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
your company being so successful. Titles of New York.
Thank
In
you.
New York, Esen Edip, my wonderful guest, who is going to be a new mother, adopting a baby. It's so exciting.
Yes, very excited.
Anyway, thank you for joining us in the ladies' room. And remember, ladies, give yourself lots of room. Room for fun, room for love, room to grow, and room to glow. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you next week.
Breathe in. Now I took